in the dead of winter, deep in the frost-bitten heart of Indianapolis, a little girl named Skylar Gardner faded into silence, just 2 years old, and the world didn't hear her last breath. January 25th, 2025, a Thursday, the kind of cold that settles in your bones. That day, snow clung to rooftops like a warning, and inside apartment 6300, something darker than cold had already taken hold. At 6:30 p.m., a 911 call came in, a woman's voice, calm, oddly rehearsed. She simply said, "She's cold to the touch." No panic, no pleading, just finality. When responders arrived, it wasn't just a tragedy, it was a tomb. The air was heavy, still, frozen, as if time had stopped, as if death had made itself at home. Skylar Gardner didn't die quickly. She didn't fall. She wasn't smothered. She froze, slowly, bit by bit, in a space that was supposed to protect her. Inside, the apartment told a story of long, layered neglect. Feces on the walls, garbage to the ceiling, a kitchen overrun with roaches and rust, and knives scattered at toddler height. The thermostat? Broken. Thermometers showed between 46 and 51 degrees Fahrenheit. Skylar shared a mattress with her 4-year-old brother. No blankets, no food, just the cold. She hadn't eaten in days. Her lips cracked. Her body, emaciated. Her voice, gone. There was no accident, no sudden event. This was a slow death, measured in missed meals, unanswered cries, and nights spent alone in the dark. Her mother, Chantel Gardner, who now used the name Chantel Boyer, wasn't home. She hadn't been for days. She was chasing a music career, posting TikToks, coaching basketball, sharing inspirational quotes. Her online life sparkled. But in reality, her children were starving. Her apartment was collapsing into filth. Skylar had stopped crying weeks ago, not because she was at peace, but because her body had given up. Chantel claimed she found Skylar under a fallen dresser, but the dresser, lightweight, fabric drawers, barely leaned against a plastic chair. It wouldn't have crushed a cat, let alone a child. Investigators were skeptical from the start. Neighbors would later say they hadn't seen the children in days. One neighbor recalled the smell, said it clung to the vents. Another remembered faint crying. That stopped. We figured someone had called it in already. Kids cry, you know? Didn't want to cause a scene. Chantel's story shifted. First, she claimed she left for hours. Then it was a day. Then, days. Text messages showed she'd stayed with her boyfriend, Brian Thomas, multiple nights. She dropped off food sometimes. Fast food, infrequently, never stayed, never checked in. The boyfriend. Brian Thomas told police he didn't know the children were suffering, but phone records showed he'd been inside the apartment just a week prior and did nothing. He saw the filth, the empty fridge, the shivering toddler, and walked away. Neglect isn't always active. Sometimes it's the choice to do nothing, the choice to pretend you didn't see. Skylar's father, a disabled veteran living in Ohio, had begged to see his children. He had court orders. He had receipts. Chantel ignored them. The system failed him, and her. CPS had visited once. A report was made. Nothing came of it. Meanwhile, Chantel posted smiling TikToks and videos titled Motivation Monday. Behind the screen, a silent scream. Skylar wasn't invisible. She was ignored. The aftermath. Skylar's brother survived. Barely, covered in grime, shaking. When doctors fed him, he ate like he hadn't seen food in weeks, screamed when they took it away. His constipation was so severe, his body had begun to shut down. At just 4 years old, he was traumatized beyond measure. Chantel eventually confessed, not in remorse, but in resignation, claimed she was overwhelmed, didn't want to ask for help, didn't want to look like a bad mother. But silence can kill, and abandonment doesn't need bruises to be deadly. By the time Chantel Gardner sat in courtroom 4B of the Monroe County Superior Court, the public already had an opinion. The headlines had painted her a monster. Social media called her a murderer. But inside those walls, justice had to be more precise, slower, burdened by rules, weighed down by evidence. The prosecution didn't mince words. From their opening statement, they made it clear. This wasn't neglect. This was cruelty, sustained, intentional, fatal. It's not about being overwhelmed. This case is about silence, starvation, and a mother who chose indifference over mercy. They laid out their evidence with precision. Timestamps from Chantel's social media posts, screenshots of her dancing on TikTok while Skylar lay just rooms away dehydrated and dying, receipts from nail salons and fast food chains, indulgences enjoyed while her daughter's cries were muffled behind a locked bedroom door. The prosecution called in a pediatric forensic pathologist, Dr. Elena Rawlings, who delivered what one juror would later call the most harrowing testimony I've ever heard. Skylar's body was emaciated. We believe she had not received adequate food or water for at least 10 days prior to death. Her weight was below the 3rd percentile for her age. There were no signs of physical trauma, just neglect, long, prolonged neglect. The photos shown in court were not released to the public, but according to transcripts, even the seasoned bailiff turned his head when they were displayed. The defense opened their case with a different story, not of cruelty, but of collapse. They told the jury that Chantel Gardner was not a monster, but a mother pushed beyond her limits. Emotionally unstable, financially strained, and left without a lifeline. She said she didn't mean to hurt her daughter. She said she thought Skylar was just sleeping a lot, that she didn't realize how bad it had gotten. When asked why she didn't take Skylar to the hospital, she offered no answer, just silence. The prosecution pounced. They reminded the jury of the clean selfies, the outings with friends, the carefully curated social media image. This was not psychosis, the DA snapped in cross-examination. This was indifference dressed up in filters. Chantel Gardner was found guilty of second-degree murder and felony child endangerment. She was sentenced to 25 years to life in a state penitentiary. No possibility of parole for 25 years. Outside, Skylar's biological father, estranged from Chantel for over a year, sobbed into the sleeve of his coat. He'd fought for visitation once, failed. Now he fights again, this time for custody of Skylar's surviving brother. But in family court, custody is never guaranteed, not even after death. Skylar Gardner didn't vanish. She wasn't abducted. She wasn't a mystery waiting to be solved. She died in a place that was supposed to protect her, her home. Behind the door of apartment 6300, her life flickered and dimmed unseen, and no one came, not in time. What do we miss when we see only the surface? The curated online posts, the neat hair, the hollow smiles. The world saw a mother. Online, Chantel smiled. She shared hair tutorials and Starbucks orders. Her captions were light. Her filters were flawless. But behind the locked door of that apartment, Skylar withered. Her voice grew fainter until it disappeared entirely, and no one heard her go silent. Skylar Gardner became one of many. A name added to a growing list of children failed not just by parents, but by systems designed to protect them. In Skylar's case, a report was filed 8 months before her death. A neighbor expressed concern. A CPS visit was scheduled and then postponed, marked as low risk. The backlog of cases too large, the staff too few. One social worker, speaking anonymously, said, "There were thousands of cases, thousands. We barely had time to look up, let alone look deeply." No one noticed when Skylar stopped attending daycare. No one questioned her absence at the clinic. No one saw the disconnect, a toddler vanishing, one missed checkup at a time. The neighbors heard something, a muffled cry, a loud crash. Then, nothing. They didn't want to get in. If you enjoy the content I create, please consider subscribing and supporting my journey. Your subscription helps me continue doing what I love, and your comments mean the world to me. They fuel my motivation and help me improve. Every bit of support, whether big or small, makes a huge difference. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being part of this amazing community. Chantel lived 2 lives, one in pixels, the other in shadows. On TikTok, she posted dancing videos, upbeat, flashy, seductive. She spoke of motherhood in hashtags and trend filters, mom life, blessed single mama. But those who scrolled never saw Skylar, not once. She was absent, scrubbed clean. In this age, we present curated identities, fragments of a life we want others to believe. But somewhere behind the ring lights and thumbnails was a toddler, alone, starving, forgotten. The internet remembers what the world missed. The apartment is empty now. Apartment 6300, cold, quiet, abandoned. But if you listen, even quieter now, almost a whisper, you can still hear her. Skylar Gardner, 2 years old, cold, alone, forgotten. Until now.